Welcome to Tuesday Talks. We realize that life is hard. We all have questions that we wouldn't even think about asking out loud. The comforting thing is, you're not alone. We're all asking them. That's what this podcast is for. Each week, we're going to talk about hard questions and painful points in life. We won't shy away from anything. If you've thought it, we're going to talk about it so you feel seen and understood. Join us for our conversation this week on Tuesday Talks.
Woo!
You ready?
I am ready.
You're so excited.
Dude, I am so excited. I have been talking about this with you forever now, and I am so pumped that Tuesday Talks is here, and we're getting to do it. I guess I should introduce myself. I didn't do that. That's probably not good. Hey, guys, I'm Alec. I'm on the student team here at Long Hollow. We've got Will and Kenny. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, man. I am the student pastor. I have the privilege of being on this team, leading this team, and having a lot of fun with you guys.
Yeah, and I'm Kenny. I'm one of the girls ministry interns here at Long Hollow.
Yeah. So welcome to the first episode. Congratulations.
Thank
you
you
guys
so much.
made it.
Wow.
Will
We're
almost
number
didn't
one.
make it. He was struggling with traffic this morning.
Yeah, a.k.a. Willow.
Willow is his daughter. So before we hop into this, I want to let you guys give everyone listening or watching, because we have this up on YouTube as well, an opportunity to get to know you better. So I asked you both to bring in 3 items that would encompass you as a person. So Kenny, would you like to go first, or would you like Will to go first?
I can go first.
All right.
Ladies
Show us
first.
what you got. Make sure you're
Okay.
descriptive for those listening.
Yes. Okay. First, I brought one of my favorite books right now, which is Let the Nations Be Glad by John Piper,
Nice.
which is about missions, which is something that I'm really passionate about. So, brought that.
Deep.
Yeah, I also brought
Yes.
a T-shirt with Jessica Fletcher's face on it, which you guys probably don't know who that is, but
Do tell.
I don't. So
Really?
I actually don't.
Okay, she's the main character from the TV show Murder, She Wrote, which is an old.
I see that on
TV
TV Land all the time.
Yeah.
But I never watch it.
Historic.
You should show the camera.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is her in all her glory.
Hopefully
Oh,
this
yeah.
isn't any copyright
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
It's
We'll
too
find
late.
out. We'll find out.
If we get sued, we can just
Sorry.
we'll take it. We'll take it out of Chef's budget.
Yep.
It's great.
Middle school
Uh,
budget. What are the third things? What are those?
Oh, yes. And then I have my dirty Vans because I just feel like they represent me well. I just wear them out. So
You
they're
do.
my favorite shoes.
Vans are comfy. Will, are you a Vans guy? I don't ever see you in Vans.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of Vans, and then my wife said, "Hey, you're no longer in your 20s." So there we go.
So now you just wear Jordans.
No, gave those up too. I'm just trying to be
Just
my
the
own person,
Chelsea
you know?
boots now.
Mm.
I'm a Chelsea boot gal.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what's that dude from
Stylish.
Italy that you wear? The
Yeah,
guy that
the-
Ryan got. Ryan got those shoes, and you really wanted the
Oh,
shoes
yeah,
too.
Ryan stole my shoes.
No, you stole Ryan's.
My mini-me, you're a liar. Oliver Cable, or Cabell, I don't know. It's Cabell. We hadn't figured that out yet, but those are my new faves. I love them things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So did you bring those, or did you bring other things?
No, I brought more important things, I think.
Okay, cool. So what do you want to start with?
Oh, man, I'm going to start with my surfboard. Y'all see that? Hand me that joker.
You brought a whole surfboard.
I brought
in
a
here.
whole-
I brought a whole
wakeboard.
one. I don't have a
whole
half
one?
surfboard.
Well,
I had a half
that's probably
wakeboard
good.
last year because somebody broke it.
Surfboard.
Real talk. No, this is my pride and joy. This is my wakeboard, and surfboard. We are on the wakeboard boat, surfing, having a blast, creating memories. That's one of the things Amy and I want to do is create memories and experiences. So we're out on the water. Just got a new boat. We're excited to get it out. So second thing, ready or not, my props are massive.
Yeah, you brought really big ones.
But I mean Will, you go big or you go home.
Yeah,
how-
that
that-
kind of represents you well.
That is me. That's my personality. So this right here, this is my granddaddy, and so everything that I do is because of this man. So he's the legacy that our family lives in, and so this is the day he passed away. I thought would be the darkest day of my life. It was the day where the Lord really inspired me to keep the legacy going, and that's when I surrendered to ministry and everything happened. So that man right there, He's the one I talked about with the story of my dad not too long ago.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the man right there. He's awesome.
That's cool.
And then,
Last but not least,
certainly not least,
is my family. So look at that.
Aw.
Aw, look at you guys.
Shout
That's a
out to
good
Wildly
picture.
Winsome, Kate Michelson in these photographs. So this is my wife Amy and my daughter Willow, aka Terror.
I have no idea if that actually focused or not. So
No clue, but
we don't have a cameraman. The camera's
find
just hanging
out.
there.
But no, man. So I, got piggybacking on both of these things. So because of my granddad's legacy, I want to be the type of dad my dad was for me, for Willow, and then creating memories is on the board. So with her, she's excited to get out there this summer. She's old enough to get on the wakeboard with me, or the surfboard.
You think she's gonna be able to handle it?
She'll probably push me off and try to take it by herself.
It's always funny when I see you on the boat and then y'all have got that swing for
Yeah.
Willow because it's been
Aw.
like an hour and she's done. She's
It's
ready to go to
amazing how
sleep.
many drunk men drive by on their boats. They're like, "Can I get in that?" I'm like, "No, can't do that."
No, that'd be weird. Like
It is weird.
lake people. Oh, no, I'm not gonna say that because I
Yeah.
don't want to offend any of our lake people.
It's all
Lake
good.
people are awesome. Y'all have
They're
a
way
great
better
time.
than beach people.
That's true. Y'all beach or mountains?
Maybe. I've always lived in the mountains, so I would prefer to live at the beach now.
Yeah. But to visit.
To visit?
Visit the beach.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd visit the beach, but bro, I'm gonna be in the pool. I don't like the sand.
You don't like sand? No, sand is the worst. That's what I tell people. Like people are like, you don't like the beach? I'm like, it's not that I don't like the beach. Just sand gets where sand shouldn't be, and I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I'd rather be on the lake.
Yeah.
See, I
let's
feel
be
like it's worth it.
No, not at all. Sand gets everywhere. It's gritty. It's gross.
It's worth it for one day at least.
Yes.
I'm with you on that.
Okay.
But like my sister-in-law, 7 a.m. on the beach, 7 p.m. coming in. No.
Mm-mm. No. I did that once. It was like, all right, this is cool for 2 days. If we hadn't had spike ball, I would have been done.
Yeah.
We played spike ball most of the day, and then we're able to hop in the water. I was like, all right, that this is good. I like this.
We're going in May, and I feel like all I'm going to do is chase Willow up and down the beach.
Probably.
100%.
I'm kind of hoping she doesn't like it so I can go.
Yeah, maybe she'll just want the pool too.
Forget creating memories on the beach. Let's go to the pool.
Yeah. Forget the beach. You have the lake.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Old
I
Hickory.
don't even need
There you
the
go.
beach.
Old stickery.
Old Stickery. All the sticks and trees.
Great.
So the point of this podcast, just in case you guys listening haven't heard or don't know, is we know that there are questions that you students have and that you want to ask, but either are worried about how you may be perceived or worried that it may say something about you. And so the goal of this podcast is to be something where you guys are able to come have questions answered in a safe way. And it's a conversation. It's a conversation between us here at the table, but also a conversation with you as well. And so you have the opportunity to send in questions to us. If you text the word Tuesday to 98173, Tuesday to 98173, you'll get a form and you'll be able to ask a question. We're not going to ask for your name. We'll ask for like city and state and grade so that we kind of know who's listening. But other than that, we won't get any other information from you because we want you to feel comfortable and confident asking your questions.
Yeah, and that's what makes this podcast so awesome is it's for you. And so if you send them in, we can keep this thing going.
Absolutely. And so if this podcast is going to be based on questions, I thought it'd be really interesting and good to kind of start off with why is it important to ask questions? And, there's all these things of like, well, what if I ask questions, I may not like what I find. If I ask questions, it means I may not believe something. But like not just about big things. Like, why is it important to ask questions as to why you believe? Like for me, I personally believe Oreos are the greatest cookie ever made.
Really?
Wow,
And
that's a
someone
strong
asked me that
statement.
once, and I was just like, oh, I like them. And they're like, well, that's all you have? And I was like, yeah. And so I wasn't even able to defend why I think Oreos are great outside of I think Oreos are great. And I have no self-control and will eat an entire package in less than 24 hours.
Wow, it's impressive.
So anyways, Will, Kenny, why is it important to ask questions?
Well, man, I think for me, asking questions has always helped because I have so many. I have so many questions. So if you never ask, you never really get answers to the things that are going through your head. And so for me, I've always big on asking questions. And even in, something as simplistic as when I first started this job, I remember, Shane was always like, you ask so many questions, but it was because I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow. And so I think questions are important because that's really one of the only ways you can grow. I mean, we can read, like you're reading about missions and you're reading about, what John Piper has to say because you have a you want answers to your questions, right?
Yeah.
You got a heart and a passion for missions, but there's so many things. So that book will help answer questions. I don't think necessarily asking a question is physically asking someone, hey, Kenny, can I ask you a question? I think sometimes asking questions is in your mind, and you can answer your own questions possibly by, like this, like reading the book. That's why, to take it to a very spiritual moment. So that's why the Bible is so important, because the Bible has so many answers to our questions, but yet we would rather ask a person rather than going to the main source.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with asking somebody, obviously. It's what we do for a living, but.
Yeah. And I think during the season of like middle or high school, you're growing so much and there's so many new things you're learning. And so asking questions is what helps alleviate or, brings clarity to situations. So I think that it's really necessary in order to continue growing and to grow into like a mature Christian.
And you experienced that this morning.
Yeah.
Your D group.
Yeah. I was kind of crazy because the topic of why questions are important came up. And I really loved what this one student found when we're reading through Luke right now. And so we were looking at Luke 1, and in the first chapter, there's Zechariah, I don't know how to say it.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Just say it fast.
If you say it confidently and
Zechariah.
fast, it works.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Well, so he and his wife couldn't get pregnant.
Right.
And then he goes into the synagogue, and pretty much the Lord meets him there and says, you're going to have a baby. And that was John the Baptist. And Zechariah had a critical spirit and was like, how could this happen? And then he wasn't able to talk until John the Baptist was born because of that, because of that critical spirit in his question that he asked. But then literally in the same chapter, just a few verses later, Mary is told that she's going to give birth to Jesus. And she asks, how can this be so? But she is not like condemned in any way for her question that she asked, because she asked it out of faith and just curiosity and wanting more clarity in the situation. And so this student just brought up the good insight that it's all about our heart, and the way we ask these questions is like we can't do it out of a critical spirit or out of just plain disbelief, but out of wanting to just know more and have more clarity, and out of faith, even if that faith is small.
Right.
So does asking questions mean that you don't believe what you, so like, we're talking about this, it could be our faith, it could be our political beliefs, it could be Oreos, could be Doritos, it could be why Casa is the most overrated Mexican in Hendersonville and possibly
Shots
Tennessee.
fired.
Wow. But if you're listening and you work at Casa, I'm sorry, I take it back.
Richard, I apologize.
But like, I think when we're scared to ask questions because of what it makes us look like.
Yeah.
And is that wrong? Is it wrong to not ask questions out of fear, or is it like how do you balance that? How do you balance fear and like being in following your intuition of like the room does not read that this question should be asked?
Yeah, I really think this is a broad, because I think it's based upon the individual. In all honesty, because there's so many people that don't believe yet are led to believe by their questioning.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you think about, I can use my wife as an example of this. I mean, atheist till she was 26, didn't believe, thought we were a bunch of weirdos, and Christianity was a big, she had a lot of opinions. But when she was in her apartment by herself at 26 years old, she knew there had to be more than the life she was living. And so she questioned God in that, environment by herself. And then God revealed her, this is a really churchy way to say it, but in short, like God revealed himself to her in that moment through her questioning.
Right.
And her remembrance of, people around her that would pray for her and say certain things, But so in her, I don't think the Lord is going to condemn her. Well, you're asking questions, so I'm not going to reveal myself to you. No, That's a good, disbelief becoming belief through the questioning.
Yeah.
And I think the great example that you're using, it's the individual, it's the heart behind the individual. Now, there's also stories of people just like him who are questioning God, and God didn't condemn them, just like Mary, but even with the same spirit. And so it's not always that's the case. And so don't be fearful, because there's been moments in my life where I'm just like, God, this is awful. Like, what in the world are you doing? In my junior in college, it was all that. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is awful. Mm-hmm. I've been following you, pursuing you for so long, and this is like what I get, So I was like, I was mad. My heart wasn't right. And then slowly he began to reveal it to me, but it didn't come without loss and stuff in my life, you know. So I think it is. I would say it's based upon the individual and the heart behind it.
Yeah.
Because we go, how can God harden Pharaoh's heart? And you go through that whole conversation. It's like God hardens his heart.
Yeah.
Because he already knew that he was going to harden his heart as soon as he got the opportunity anyway. Because he knew, I keep saying heart, but he knew the heart of Pharaoh.
Right.
So I think it's based upon the individual.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because I look back on my own life too, and the times when I've like doubted God, I guess, or wrestled with questions of if he's real or things, what do I believe about certain situations? And I always seem to get more of the Lord in those moments and develop greater intimacy with him because of my like wrestling and because I came to him out of humility almost and being able to ask those questions.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we had a student not too long ago. This is an example of like how asking questions in disbelief can lead to a bad spot. But we had a student because he wanted to answer to so many questions about God. And so we talked about this in our meeting yesterday, where it's like it's not about asking like who is God and why God works. So as far as like, hey, why did you create creation the way you did? Why did you speak it into existence? Why didn't you have like a Harry Potter wand and like Willow keeps going abacadabra, you know, and go boom and speak it into existence that way? He wanted to know, well, who came before God? He wanted to know all these questions, he wanted all these answers to all these questions didn't really matter at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And so all of that questioning led to, I can't get answers, so I just won't believe.
Right.
Where it's okay to ask questions, but I think what we have to do is we have to think about, I don't want to say the right question. There's not necessarily a right question to ask. That's the point of this podcast. Ask any question, but just don't get tied up. I think our culture gets tied up on, I can't get the answer to all the questions, when in Scripture, it speaks to the mystery of who God is.
Right.
Like, that's a really cool thing to think about. Like, there's a mystery. And what mystery does, it's kind of like it's a teaser in a way, where it makes us feel like, I'm never going to understand all of it, and that's where the all comes in.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that. I always kind of point students back to, there's a mystery to God, because if we knew all the answers, this is so churchy, but if we knew all the answers to our questions, then we would be God ourselves. And guess what?
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is it one of those things where like not being able to know the answer almost, because I'm trying to think through the perspective of, because I personally don't have a story similar to Amy's or students that are listening that think God is a farce, God is stupid, church is stupid. So, you know, is it one of those things for them? I would imagine part of the reason why they feel like it's dumb is because they don't have answers.
Right.
And so like, what would you say like to, like, I mean, if I'm sitting here going, if I had that heart of like, I don't know, like I can't see it. Cause I had a conversation with the student and he's like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense with science. And like, so I struggle to believe, like I want to believe it, but I don't have the answers, and science has answers. So like, how does asking questions help or not? How does asking questions help them? Like people that don't care. Cause like, I think for us, we in the church, we know we can ask questions, but we are scared to sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, again, that kind of goes back to what I said. I think when you bring in science is proving all of these things. So it's factual for the most part. It's very interesting. If you listen to Nate Bargatze, he's like, I would love to be a scientist because I can just make up whatever I want to and everybody believes it. You know, cockroaches are 50 million years old or whatever he said. But
boom.
But like that's the thing is he's asking, well, who came before God? That's basically when you get into science and all that stuff, you're wanting to know all these answers that this is so hard, okay? But at the end of the day, answers to all those questions doesn't change who God is, and it doesn't change whether or not he is who he says he is. And it doesn't change the fact that he's done what he's done in my life. And so I like to kind of steer and guide those questions to, if you have the answer to that, would it really change your view of who God is? And would you, if I answered that question right now with a factual answer, would you believe? And 9 times out of 10, guarantee you they're going to say, I don't know. Because that answer to that question leads to another question that only leads to more questions that never, so it goes back to what we're talking about. It's a heart. So it's an individual. Yeah. Some people will ask that question and then you can say, well, it's about the mystery of God and everything I've already explained. They go, tell me more about the faith then. Some will go, I just won't believe. And that's a case of the student that we talked about. I used as an example earlier. And it was an individual. You know, his heart was hardened regardless of the answers to his questions.
Yeah.
But it's not bad that he asked.
Yeah.
And it's good for us. I mean, think about the question that you asked this morning. Like it helped you as a believer too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying, and I definitely think, like you said, it goes back to their heart and the individual person, and what are they really trying to get out of the question? Like, are they asking questions just to be critical and just to maybe not, like, see that they can't get an answer? You know, like,
Right.
I'm only asking the question so that I can show you something instead of trying to receive something for myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and we got a story of a student in our ministry a couple years ago. His name was Job. Job, as my wife says in the Bible. No, it was a funny story. Pre-Jesus. Love you, babe. But no, that was Job's story. Is his whole thing was his heart wanted to disprove everything, so that he could prove to us that we're like weird and like, why would you believe this mystery? Why would you believe in something that you can't tangibly see or feel? And so in his, it's kind of like a Lee Strobel type thing, really.
Yeah.
Where his dad was like, well, then prove us wrong. So he goes in, it's a crazy story. I mean, he's 17 years old, goes in and locks himself into his bedroom with the Bible and his laptop. And he comes out hours later in tears, and he looks at his dad, and it's almost like, in my head, I picture like his dad's just sitting there waiting, right?
Yeah.
But I don't really know how it got played out. But the gist of the story is Job comes out, looks at his dad, has tears in his eyes, and says, I can't prove it wrong.
wow.
And his dad goes, so what does that mean? And he said, well, it must be true. And so in his attempt to ask so many, because it led to, he had so many questions, and he's a very, very intelligent young man, a great dude. And as an attempt to, appease his intellect,
Right.
the questions came, but that didn't mean that God wasn't going to answer the questions, but he answered the question in a very unique way.
Yeah.
And the answer was, you'll never get the answers to all these questions. I want you to fall in love with the mystery of who I am and be drawn to that. And then, so he wound up surrendering his life to Jesus. And it was cool is Ryan Hammond, our one of our middle school pastors, was involved in that whole process.
Wow.
So it was really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really amazing story. But anyway, that's a
so
great
cool.
tangible. That's a student that was
Yeah.
in our ministry. That's the student's age now that are listening to this. And it's okay to have questions.
Yeah.
And this is just a unique way where the Lord revealed himself to him in those questions. But we've also had students, like I've already used, that, he had a lot of questions and he ran away from the faith. But
Yeah. Kenny, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I would just say ultimately, like, questions are good, and the Lord uses those to bring us closer to Him. Like, even in the cases where maybe it led the students astray, but I don't know. I just think it's always good to get clarity, and God is not a God of confusion. So He wants us to have answers to our questions, and He wants us to find more of Him. So at the end of the day, like, if you have questions, ask them and seek for answers.
yeah, I think that's good. And I always tell students, like, write them down.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. So the whole point of this is for you to feel confident in asking questions. So don't be, even though some of the things we may have said, you may go, oh, or whatever it is, like, write them down. Use your notes app, write them down.
Yeah.
And that's a great way you can send them to us, and we'll do our best to attempt to answer them. And Alex not saying he has all the answers either.
No,
and neither are
absolutely
you and I.
not.
No.
But our goal is to discuss the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you may ask a question and we may discuss it, but that doesn't mean we'll specifically answer it either.
Yeah.
But write them things down and let's talk about it.
And send them in. It's Tuesdays to, 98173. Tuesdays to 98173.
right.
I'm trying that number. You think it would be
doesn't
easy to
flow.
remember.
You do
It
good.
doesn't.
98173.
98173. That's Tuesdays to 98173.
Ooh, I like that.
We should make a jingle.
You should hit a thing.
No, I'm not going to hit the thing. So thank you guys for listening. Will, Kenny, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So it was good. It was a good first episode.
Great
so
job.
excited to get this out. Excited for you guys to listen. So hit us up if you have any questions. And if not, then we will talk to you next time. See you guys.
Thank y'all.